The outcome of Gladys Russell's marriage to the Duke of Buckingham is ultimately revealed in Marriage is a Gamble, the fourth episode of Season 3 of The Gilded Age. History has noted how much the Russell dynasty resembles the Vanderbilts, a real-life robber baron clan of the era, ever since the HBO series premiered in 2022. Bertha Russell, like Alva Vanderbilt, spent a great deal of money attempting to win over and eventually outdo Caroline Astor. She did this by first utilizing the invitation to a ball extended to Mrs. Astor's own daughter as social leverage, and then she led the development of the Metropolitan Opera House. What else did Alva Vanderbilt have a reputation for? Arranging the marriage of her daughter Consuelo to a Duke of England. Is Bertha as successful as Alva? Was the wedding as hard to arrange for Gladys as it was for the real Consuelo? Is George Russell going to take any action? This is what transpired in Marriage is a Gamble, Season 3, Episode 4 of The Gilded Age. As the wedding draws near, the Russell home is bustling with bustle, but only Bertha is thrilled. Gladys has shut herself in her room and won't leave. Bertha is becoming irritated with Larry as he pressures her to allow Marian to be a bridesmaid. Larry continues to oppose his mother even after she gives up, pressing her to bring her sister to the wedding. Bertha argues that she wouldn't belong in society, but Larry ignores this and writes to his aunt Monica O'Brien without telling Bertha until she comes to visit at the house. Gladys and George agree with Larry's decision, but Bertha is upset because she thinks Monica will be overburdened by social obligations. The differences between Bertha and her sister are immediately apparent. Monica doesn't value the customs of high society and doesn't require the fancy items Bertha adores. She only packed one lovely dress, which isn't even up to Bertha's standards, much to her dismay. Monica's lone dress is accidentally destroyed during dinner when she tries to persuade her to take one of hers. However, Hector has brought his sister, Sarah, who stays with him and has no plans to leave after the wedding, something that Bertha obviously disapproves of, so she is not the only family member in town for the wedding. George, however, is Bertha's greatest obstacle since he not only disapproves of her plans for Gladys, but also maintains that he would not force their daughter to marry him, even though it is becoming more and more important for the wedding to happen. Everything seemed to be against Bertha, even though she will soon win. Even as they get ready to go to the wedding, Agnes and Ada fight again because Agnes thinks Ada is keeping tabs on her expenses. However, Agnes discovers that Ada is meeting with Madame Dashkova, a psychic who offers to allow Ada to speak to her deceased husband, proving that this time, more than just money separates the sisters. Agnes is already upset over being expelled from her committee meeting because she did not write the checks, and discovering Madame Dashkova only makes her more. Calling the woman's offer folderol, she gives her the order to go. However, Ada maintains Madame Dashkova's card and is adamant about persevering. Marian tries to connect with her niece by inquiring about her relationship with Larry, but Agnes does have a more tender moment with Marian. Agnes explains that Bertha is trying to make Marian a respectable social bride for Larry by asking her to be a bridesmaid for Gladys. Marian, though, doesn't think Bertha would be happy with her and Larry. Agnes is very supportive and displays her uncommon, loving side despite her tendency toward criticism. When Jack and Larry receive a response from Weston, whom they had previously tried to sell to, Episode 4 advances the plot of Jack and his clock. Weston makes them an offer, but Jack mistook his delayed response for a rejection. Weston wants to pay $300,000 to own the design and the patent outright. It is not a collaboration. Before the purchase is finalized, Larry raises the amount even further, reaching $600,000. Jack is surprised. Jack is almost as wealthy as his bosses with just half of that, but he is reluctant to tell others about it. He tells Mrs. Bauer that the only place he has ever felt at home is at the Van Ryn's house, thus he doesn't want to go. Although she understands that he cannot stay at the mansion indefinitely, Bauer advises him to keep the amount a secret while he is there. Peggy and William continue their romance in Newport, where she also meets Mrs. Kirkland, William's mother. Peggy hasn't seen Mrs. Kirkland's prejudice, even though her parents did in the last episode. Although William graciously defends Peggy's work, it soon becomes apparent that Mrs. Kirkland disapproves of Peggy's politics and journalism profession. Mrs. Kirkland is present at the meeting where Peggy is requested to talk about her experiences at the Tuskegee School. Peggy understands her parents' worries after seeing Mrs. Kirkland talk patronizingly about her father. The documents continue to discuss Gladys and reveal information on her wardrobe as the wedding draws near. George becomes alarmed by the situation and demands that Bertha determine who is selling this information. Church goes to a number of other staff members, including Bruce, Borden, Adelheid, and Andred, when Bertha asks him for assistance. Adelheid thinks it's the dressmaker, but Church cautions Bertha about making charges because of her rage. As their romance progresses, Borden pops the question to Bruce, but she declines, acknowledging that she is already married. She discloses that her husband has acute melancholia. which has landed him in an asylum. Nonetheless, she's unable to file for divorce without an affair. Despite Borden's disappointment at the refusal, they don't appear to be at odds about their inability to get married. The rest of society has its own drama to deal with, even though the Russells have a lot going on. Despite the absence of names, the documents describe a duel between two men who are obviously Mrs. Astor's daughter, Charlotte's husband and boyfriend. In order to avoid causing scandal, Mrs. Astor forbids Charlotte from attending the wedding. Charlotte is furious and confronts Mrs. Astor about her parents' failing marriage, but Mrs. Astor is adamant about not getting a divorce, which Charlotte disagrees with. At the wedding, Mrs. Astor is asked a number of questions regarding the article, but she only gets cold looks in return. When J.P. Morgan visits George on the wedding day, he discloses that his transcontinental railroad proposal is in disarray and then backs out of the agreement. George, however, disregards the caution and continues. In the meantime, Bertha calls Marion over to speak with Gladys, but she still refuses to leave her room. Gladys doesn't appear to be going to the wedding as everyone else does. Despite Bertha's efforts to hide it, the delay makes Sarah question Gladys' arrival. The last person to pay her a visit is George, who serves as a reminder of how challenging it can be for a young lady to bounce back from a scandal. Even though George acknowledges that he let Gladys down, he keeps his pledge and doesn't make her go. Gladys acknowledges that they have reached the point of no return and descends the stairs, prepared to attend her wedding, just as George is about to give up. Gladys tears as she walks down the aisle, carrying out the wedding even though she doesn't want to and guaranteeing Bertha's victory in the process. Marriage is a Gamble advances the season by escalating the Russell family's continuing dispute at Gladys' wedding.